all greatness raises everybody around you.
It does. I mean, it does. When our neighbors succeed, it elevates everybody.
Yeah.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
Welcome to Tulsa Talks, where we inspire people to have meaningful everyday conversations. The topic today is local business and the challenge of running a small business. We have my State Farm agent, Brent Hagar, here to talk about what he's experienced over the last 15 years?
18
18 years.
and 19 right now.
Cool. So, Brent, what brought you into the insurance realm?
So thank you for having me here, Craig. It's a pleasure to be with you. Um, quick backstory from Ada, Oklahoma, my small town, and was able to become employed as a young man many years ago now, over 50 years ago, over 40 years ago, with a little company that was owned by an Ada owner, but the job was in Texas. And so we were involved in that job. We moved up through the ranks.
What did you do in that job?
It's an outside firm that does property inspections,
Okay.
typically for insurance companies. And so moved my new wife away from her mom and dad, and they finally forgave me years later. And moved her to Texas. Then we came back to Oklahoma. Then we went back to the Dallas area for quite a long time. All of our girls were born in Dallas. We ended up purchasing the company from the owner. There were three of us. And we did that in 2003 and had no intention of really changing. I stayed on with the company, but my partners left and left me there with a new entity. And I'm 46 years old. And that particular new ownership group was came from the heavily regulated banking background. And we're a small service company. We'd always grown our company by asking our customer, what do you need us to do? And they kind of wanted to turn that around and dictate to the customer what we were going to do. And I thought, this is probably not going to work out best for me because I was the marketing guy. I was the VP of marketing. I thought, I'm 46. It's time to pray about this. We did. I'd always liked State Farm. They were the one company that I sold to that had a different ethos, completely different ethos than the other companies I sold to. And
What
so
was the difference?
it started at the top. And I think in a nutshell, they really placed value in the people that they employed and developed. And it was a customer focused business with a heavy emphasis on employee development and appreciation. And it showed itself, it revealed itself in the way it interacted with the consumer from the agent level and through the back end with claims and underwriting.
Yeah. You said a couple of things just then. A lot of companies want to back a customer or their customer into a corner and be self-advantageous. I had an experience with one of the box store, Best Buy.
Yeah.
I went and bought a radio from them, and then I had to go and get it installed by their install team. They refused to give me a receipt
Yeah.
of me handing them something that I'd already purchased. You guys don't treat people like that.
Well, what we can control, we control, and we would never treat somebody like that. The world's different today than it was 40 years ago or so when I started in business. And it's unfortunate, really. I think consumer demand has driven companies to be less personal, and that's unfortunate for the consumer in the end game. But so we selected. We thought let's try this thing with State Farm, and they have a process, and so we were fortunate enough to get an opportunity in Jinx, Oklahoma. So we opened an agency, what we call Scratch.
What did Carla think about
She
you
prayed the whole
going?
way. I mean, we were in this together, and she actually was the one that had impressions, had confirmation from friends, had a dream. She prayed basically, for kind of a Gideon prayer. Lord, if this is your will, then I need you to show me a sign. And he showed that sign within an hour of that prayer. And so we believed with all of our heart that this was a God inspired move for us. It was the right thing for us to bring us up here. So we started a scratch agency in January of 2007. I started 9 months before that in training and get licensing and then learn the State Farm systems and all that. So January 2007, we could start and actually know what we were doing, which we thought we did. And we were still kind of walking in the dark because it's always new and different.
Sure. Get the
And
ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling. Started with 2 employees and myself, and with no customers. So
That's
on day one, we have no policies, no customers, and it's like, get it going.
Yeah, and complete cash bleed at that time.
Yeah, yep. State Farm has a platform for people who start new because they don't have any residual renewal business. So it's a little bit of a different program, which helps sustain it. But if you're not getting it going pretty hard, then you're not going to be able to, eat.
So you started a State Farm agency by 9 months of training. You've employed 2 people in your startup.
Mhm.
What's next?
It's really, honestly, it's probably not different than any other business model. The owner has to really invest a lot of time and sweat equity and energy. And unless you're super capitalized and you can hire a general manager and a CEO and be absent.
Yeah, that's not your style anyway.
Well, it's not. I like to be hands on, but over time, as you persist and you grow, and you as a CEO, now I'm going to change that, as a business owner,
Mhm.
you have to do so many. You wear so many hats that you start hiring people who have the talent base to start taking off some of those hats.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you hire good people.
Right.
You you invest time in those people
Yeah.
and develop those people. And
Right.
that's never ending, especially as technology changes,
Mhm.
customer demands change, and competition changes.
Right. You
You
know what
have
I
to
found?
continually be adept at employee development.
You know what I found by going through the process of learning the broad stroke of things, because there's not enough of me to get really into the details of anything and become an expert at anything if I'm doing everything. Then you had a large, wide swath of information that you could onboard these people and help them become more expert than you are.
Certainly, there are business tools that a franchise would give to their franchise owner that I was fortunate to have with a company like State Farm. So there's some basic infrastructure there to help train. Um, but on the business side, uh, uh, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I never will pronounce his last name correctly, but the author of that book, read that many years ago, and he makes a point that a business owner is pretty much a CEO or general manager, and you need to hire to those weaknesses,
Mhm.
and or you need to trust in professionals. So we're a generalist in his concept, and I think he's hit it right on an entrepreneur or a business owner knows a little bit about a lot, but they're really maybe not an expert in it, but in one or two things. So what I have experienced in looking at some of my insurance competitors, people who have agencies with different companies or independents, or even just different businesses, as we try to insure them and help them. And I have uncovered the fact that many business owners, they don't start the right way. Like, for instance, they don't line up with the CPA when they get started and begin their bookkeeping consistently and accurately. That creates a lot of problems downstream. Or they haven't set up their business entity yet, which you can sometimes do that with an accountant as well, or you can hire an attorney. But determine how you want to set up your business. Make sure you're, all set up with the state correctly, filed with the state correctly, and keep those LLCs active. However you decide, but you need to put a lot of thought into a business plan right up front. And I think this is another area where people, let's just say they love to cook and they want to open a restaurant, or they're a good electrician and they want to not be working for someone, they want to start their own company. the tradespeople or the passionate people who have a gift or a practice, they want to run out and start their own company, but they may not put the necessary sweat equity into research to understand exactly what they need to do to get it started correctly.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then capitalization becomes an issue as well.
Sure. They have a technician's mindset in an owner's position.
Correct.
Not a good place.
And they're really good at what they do.
right.
And so we'll insure people, let's say, that are in an artisan contracting area, and they do electricity well, they do plumbing well, but they just can't run their back end. They can't bill appropriately. They can't collect appropriately. When the insurance company says it's time for your annual audit, they don't know where to start. They procrastinate. They don't do it. They get canceled. It's just it's a never ending. There are a whole, I don't think the public understands all of the regulatory things that a small business owner has to actually pay attention to. And if you don't, you're going to get hurt or in trouble.
Yeah. You'll get
A
out
lot-
of business faster than you went in business.
You think it's not that big of a deal, but it really is a big deal. And so you have to pay attention to that. And then when you hire people, now you've got payroll, you've got all the labor rules. You've got now to become an HR director in your own company. And there are plenty of little
nuances.
rules and regulatory issues that you have to be aware of if you employ people. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah. They're the struggles of life for people that live their lives working for somebody else are tremendous
Mhm.
in themselves. And I often say that if a person has struggles running their own finances, then running a business would be very difficult for them.
I agree.
So I say that people should learn how to run themselves before they learn how to run others.
It's a great point.
And so many people don't even know how to balance a checkbook these
I do.
days,
Yeah.
which is a challenge of itself. But you put these other challenges of having to pay all of your subcontractors and people, and you don't realize what that is until you go into it.
And that's kind of comes back to the forethought and the research and planning before one would jump out and actually try to start a company.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this morning before I came over. Research is easily done on Google. However, I would say from my experience that you'll flesh out about 50% of the accurate details you need to properly build a business plan by doing online research only.
Yeah.
The
So
other
you're missing
half,
50%.
You are. And it's not misinformation as much as it is lack of accurate
Yeah.
information.
Might not even know what questions to ask.
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. But I do know that I don't know.
Exactly. If you're aware enough to know that you don't know what you don't know, then that's a good place to start. But my recommendation for anybody who wants to start a business is do their research online and then ask people who are in that business, even if you have to drive to another city, make an appointment with a business owner who does the same kind of business and ask them for 30 minutes of their time, come in with some basic questions, and then ask the owner, say, now tell me what I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know what to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
how willing are people to do that for others?
I'm
typically
always
speaking?
willing if people are, for instance, I'll have from time to time younger State Farm agents call me. I would think it would be more so, but I guess it's a matter of pride. Maybe they don't want to make the call, or maybe they won't think I'll be willing to give them the time. But
That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
Is people are hesitant to reach out to other people in the industry because they have a mindset of lack. They have a mindset of fear. They have a mindset of people not wanting to have healthy relationships and fair competition.
right.
And if we equip somebody that is not there yet, then we've helped somebody hurt us. And that's not the way that it is with most successful people.
It's really not. We want, I think the appropriate Christian mindset for sure would be you want others even if they're your competitors or they're in the same big company like other State Farm agents around me, I want them to be successful.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't want them to struggle.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of struggle in every industry. And you don't want that for anybody.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's not love.
no, it's really not, because listen, and here's the thing about capitalism. I'm a big believer in capitalism. I have no time for socialists because they operate from a negative, closed mentality. The thing about capitalism, in my opinion, is that it is the fairest way for both the consumer and the business owner to win, and they win in each exchange. Because the customer gets what they want, and the business owner they provide the service or the product at a price that they can operate on as well. But capitalism is an expanding. In other words,
mechanism.
The economy can grow.
Yeah, sure.
And we look at the world as if our friends succeed, then the economy just grew. And where this negative progressivism idea sinks in is, if somebody is in the top 1%, they took it from the other 99. And I totally disagree with that.
That 1% had to outperform everybody else to be able to get there.
It's not as simple as they took it away from anybody. The point is that capitalism allows people to do what they want to do, or at least if they have freedom, like we do here in the United States, that we want to maintain, right? Through different elections, we want to maintain our freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to run a business that operates ethically and complies with the rules.
Yeah.
But the point is, the economy expands. Everybody can be successful.
Right. There's
you
opportunity.
don't have to have failure.
Yeah.
Now there will be, because there are circumstances that enter people's lives they cannot control. And
Sure.
sometimes that will impact their business or maybe end their business.
Yeah. And we're fortunate enough to live in the United States where there are safety nets for people that do fail.
There are.
And there are do-overs. There's opportunities out there.
Absolutely.
So if you have a safety net in place like we have here, and you have opportunity to do something, then why not take that opportunity and run with it?
100%.
So competition is not a bad thing.
Competition makes us better. It makes us work harder. It makes us focus. It exposes laziness and weakness, which is a good thing. And who benefits by that? The consumer benefits by that.
Yeah.
So we like competition.
Me too. I've helped a couple of guys go into business for themselves in the contracting realm that had worked for us. They were good employees. They were driven. They needed to do their own thing because of their growth mindset, attitude.
Right.
And I helped them. I said, look, here's the fundamentals. You need anything more than this, come back to me. I'll coach you up.
Right.
Because I think that when people excel, it helps our community.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of room for people to live at an high level that a lot of people aren't wanting to get to. And by me holding those people back in my company in a state of fear, or not hiring this person because he might be competition one day, and that's the way that I see a lot of other people operate. I can't hire this person because I'm thinking that he might be competition one day. Or I hired this guy, I trained him and he went out there and was competition.
Right.
Well, if all greatness raises everybody around you.
It does. I mean, it does. When our neighbors succeed, it elevates everybody.
Yeah.
So
and it gives those other people that aren't succeeding an opportunity to do something different, because they might not have had that purpose in their life, or at least enough passion to be able to live in that purpose.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So when we excel and our neighbors excel with us, we can bring a standard of living to a different level.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the way our economy is based. And we get, it annoys me so much of the traditional media and some of these loud voices that we hear always look at the economy as a zero net, like the economy can't expand, and whoever's benefiting or is being blessed in that economy is at the expense of someone else. And that is so wrong. That is not at all wrong. Now, there are businesses or there are business people who have exploited people,
Sure,
but
absolutely.
they tend to get exposed fairly quickly, and our justice system is not very friendly toward them. Uh, and I know in our company, uh, we have a very, very strong compliance department. And so there are many, many things that we can't do because it's not compliant. And that's a good thing because it protects our brand, number one. And it protects the consumer. Mhm. So there are people in this world who will try to take advantage of others. So our business is a pretty highly regulated business. We have a very robust compliance department. So that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. But to think that somebody in America in business succeeds only at the expense of other people is that's an irrational and erroneous line of thinking.
Right. So 18 years ago, you started your State Farm
Mhm.
agency in Jinx, Oklahoma,
Right.
and you started that with 2 employees. How many employees do you have now?
We have 12 now, and 10 are full time, and 2 are part time, half
Okay.
time or 3/4 time.
And I suppose most people 18 years ago in the city of Jinx and Tulsa, because you serve greater Tulsa area
Yep.
from
Pretty much
Jinx.
Oklahoma. We're licensed in Oklahoma, but our focus is in and around Tulsa County.
Okay. I suppose people in and around Tulsa County had insurance when you went into business.
Right.
And you grew your business in 18 years from you and 2 employees to basically 11 employees net full time, basically.
Right.
So, with that being said, how did you do that?
Slow and methodical as different carriers. I mean, here's the thing about insurance: it's a regulated business, right? So we have to file rates with the insurance department, and so at some point in time, people are going to look at their insurance. They're going to say, "Okay, what am I paying? What's the value?" Right now, consumers are really driven by just what the price is because insurance has been commoditized by all the big players, that advertise a lot. And so auto insurance is auto insurance. It's in a box. It's the same for everybody. And so that's the mentality of the consumer, and we can't fight that. So we have to become more, as a company, State Farm. We work really, really hard to trim expenses, operate leanly, and pay claims that we owe, pay no more than what we owe for under contract, but pay those claims and therefore operate a profitable business. But at the same time, looking at providing the best price for that product. So State Farm has never been the cheapest. We never will. Don't want to be.
But you're fair
But we are consistently competitive.
and fair.
Correct. Oh, I think so. I think that drives the ethos that goes back to why I started with State Farm anyway, is we want to do the right thing for the customer. That's it. At every meeting we have this little slide, and we're doing the right thing for the customer. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And
Yeah.
at each step of the way, we want to do it. Now, sometimes customers want things a certain way and they can't have it because of regulation or legislation or whatever, but do the right thing for the customer. And so over time, as we have stayed competitive, not the cheapest, but we're competitive,
Sure.
then we have been able to help people and keep them. And that's the biggest thing. And I think for us and for me, that may be the most important thing, is we want to provide a level of service that never persuades our customer to look somewhere else. And the first thing you do when you're running a small business, a service business like ours is you want to be accessible to the customer, which means when they call the office, they expect the phone to be answered. Isn't that a novel concept?
You guys are in the insurance business.
Yeah.
You just said the service business.
But it is the service side.
No, I get it.
Yep.
And most people think of insurance as something that wants to fight them to get every dollar that they can and not give them anything in return. A lot of times.
That is definitely a thought.
And you guys have always been very fair with me. You pay, if we have a claim, almost immediately. And you try to keep the rates in line the best that you can.
So the company, I mean, we're just the agency side. So just to make sure listeners understand, Agencies don't make claims decisions. We don't pay claims. Agents facilitate. So we have a person in our office where she's there in the event that a customer is having a little more difficulty than they need communicating with claims after
Yeah.
a loss.
Yeah.
She helps facilitate that. But yeah, the way claims are paid is all done by State Farm or corporate. And overall, 90-something% of the time, everything goes well. Sometimes humans get involved and make mistakes at some level. And so
But you're there to back
we try to be
your
an
customer
advocate. We
the
try
best
to
you can.
get in there and say, hey, wait a minute, you might want to take a look at this. Maybe this didn't happen the way you thought, or it wasn't effectively communicated to the customer. So we can ask that and do that.
Yeah.
But the main thing, Craig, is people call in most of the time and they want to say, why did my premium go up? And so we explain that. And so my team, all day long, every day, is in the education and explanation business. And that's what they're trained to do. Because the explanation is typically 90% consistently the same from one customer to the next on why did my rate change? Okay, so let's say we filed a rate increase for May the 1st, and it's a 4.6% base rate increase on auto insurance. Well, customers now on April 1st are starting to get those bills reflecting that new rate, which we filed, and they call and they ask why. It's up to us to explain that. My point is that our competitors in our business consistently don't answer the phone, or customers have to leave a voicemail and expect a call back, which may or may not come very quickly or may not come at all. And to me, that is just complete mismanagement of this agency opportunity. We are there to be available when our customers need us. That means first and foremost, answer the phone.
You guys also do something like annual or biannual reviews for people?
We do. So we focus that around a couple of lines of business. I'll use homeowners policies as the first one. And but we know when those renew every year, and we do it every other year. So if we have a new customer, let's say, that comes on, they came on last April. They will have received a phone call in March of this year saying, this is your first year with us, renewal wise. We'd like to meet with you. It can be over a little product that State Farm has that operates like Zoom, or it could be just a phone call, or it could be in person. We have a lady in our office that meets with people. Customer chooses to do that. They come in or they do a telephone interview. We'll tell them that we'll call you back in 2 years. So we won't meet with them every year because that gets a little much. But we do encourage them, if things change, please call us, right? We need to know.
Open door policy.
Yep. But in 2 years, we'll call them again and say, hey, it's time for another review. About a third of the people accept that. People may not want to meet that frequently, but we're making that available to them. Again, that's another
proactive.
Exactly, proactive. It's another way that we just want to be able to be in front of them. They think we're just calling them in for a sales meeting, and it's not. We really want them to understand the way their policy works, because you know what? People are busy. Insurance, they get it done and then they move on, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'm probably not too different than anybody else. Over a year or two, I forget a lot. So if I meet with my agent every other year and I'm reminded of what I have, and I'm reminded of that deductible, and I'm reminded of these endorsements that I do or don't have, what's covered and what's not covered, I'm going to feel a little bit more confident in the product that I'm paying for.
What is something that you're challenged with right now within your business and the industry?
The United States, but specifically the Midwest, has endured 2 hard years of connective storms. 2023 was a rough year. Everybody remembers that year because that was the Father's Day storm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers where they were when the Father's Day storm hit.
We didn't have any damage at my house, but we had several friends that did.
Yep. A lot of trees down,
Sure.
a lot of roofs damaged. Took a lot of time to clean all that up. Insurance involved.
And that cost something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Incredible amount of money. And that's what the insurance is there for, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and we pay. The
Yeah.
one thing that State Farm's going to do is pay.
That's what I said.
Yep, we pay.
You guys pay on time and pay fairly.
Exactly. And then we follow up last year in 2024, and I guess my prayers, I'm not a very good prayer. I don't have good standing with God right now, but he denied my request for a slow weather year, and we had a very aggressive. We had I think it was 105 tornadoes that hit the ground in Oklahoma
Oh my.
last year. The average in Oklahoma is about 55 a year.
Almost double.
It did. And when they hit out in the pasture land, the only people that hurts are the cows and the trees. And I'm being facetious, but they landed right in the middle of downtown Sulphur. That's not far from my hometown of Ada. It hit on the outskirts of Ardmore, Marietta. It hit around Shawnee. Hit hard in Barnsdall. Destroyed that little town.
Yeah. I think that might have made national news.
Clipped Claremore. It hit one side of Bartlesville. Those are the ones I can remember off the top of my head. But that was 2024, and coming into this year, same prayer, same unanswered so far. But my hometown had 2 tornadoes that hit right on the outskirts in March in Ada, Oklahoma. We've had an event where just yesterday, about 10 miles of destruction toward Owasso when the tornado touched down for a bit. Thank goodness it wasn't for a long time, but there were still, according to the local news last night, 200 homes affected in and around Owasso just from this one little event. And we've got storms all week, and it's only early April. We have all of April, all of May, and into June before we get past this inclement weather period of time. My point in saying that is that's a challenge. It's a challenge. I'll jump over to California right quick and use it as an example.
The fires over there?
Yes. And so now California's different because their political structure within California, going back to Prop 103 back in 1988, it destroyed the ability for the insurance industry to fairly price to risk. It's a political problem. The political rules, the Department of Insurance have kept us rate insufficient for a long, long time. Over 10 years, we've been rate insufficient in California. And then you have this massive fire that hit the early part of this year in January, caused just for State Farm, the last number I read was $6 to $8 billion. Just us.
Sounds like a lot of money to me.
Just us. And so, and I'll finish that story and come back to Oklahoma. We're not there. We have a much better price to risk model in Oklahoma with the state. They do regulate us. They do look at our numbers, but just when you look at what's happened in the last 2 years, and because it's a podcast, it could be reproduced, or I won't share specific numbers, but I can tell you that just in the homeowners line of business, out of my agency, because I do see those numbers, we spent dramatically more in claims dollars than we took in premium over the last 2 years.
What do you do with that as a company? How do you
It's a
survive
loss.
through that?
It's a loss. Well, you do that by then taking a look at your prior losses to help forecast future losses. Amazingly complex models that they've built. Algorithms probably now using artificial intelligence to help us target where we need to be rate sufficient. So we're in this to make a profit, but we're not in this to make a killing.
Yeah.
But we can't operate at a loss.
Right.
And so consumers call and say, why'd my homeowner's insurance go up this much money? And we try to explain that. We explain, look at the last few years and think about now we're trying to forecast what we're going to need to pay in the future.
Yeah.
So
do you guys ever come down on prices when you have good years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my second or third year in agency, we had adjusted homeowners prices based on those prior years of claims, thinking that was going to continue. And we had a couple of really good years. And so boom, State Farm lowered the price for the next year. We lowered prices.
Yeah. Fair business practices.
And I think
making sure that you have enough in, but not too much, just balancing it out.
Exactly. I mean, the margin that insurance is looking for, and this is any insurance company, we're only looking to make like 1 to 2 or 3%. That's it.
Wow.
1 to 2, because on the other side of it, insurance companies take your premium dollars and they put it out in funds that are making interest, a little bit of equities exposure, but not much. But the point is you have this tremendous amount of money, which is policyholder money, audited by the state, and we're going to make some income off that. Well, that income helps to offset the true underwriting rate that we need to charge to make a profit.
Yeah. We're almost working like a co-op.
Mm,
Everybody's putting their money together.
Yes. And
You guys get to invest it, hopefully make a little bit of money off of it,
But that
and not
offsets
make a
rate.
whole lot,
But
not
that-
make a whole lot of money off
exactly.
of the consumer.
And it blends in when you're filing your rates. I mean, you have to show the investment income, then you show your underwriting profit or loss. And all those together then are going to be your justification to the state of why you need to set your premiums where you set them. It's highly regulated. And let me just say this one thing. In Oklahoma, we don't pay claims for California. And
State by state?
State by state. And honestly, the hang up in California, the really big one underlying is they want insurance companies to pay for their claims without a state money. They don't want their consumers,
So their real estate is jacked up real high as far as the value of it's
Yeah.
concerned compared to the rest of the country. And they need Oklahoma to contribute to paying for their devastation because the people can't afford or don't want to pay for their own insurance.
because the regulators in California don't want their citizens to have to pay what they owe. It's as simple as that. They want the insurance industry to bail out the losses of California so their policyholders are not affected by justifiable rate increases. That's me saying that. That's not State Farm. That's just me as an individual reading the newspapers, reading the online stuff, understanding the way their system works. They want to be bailed out. But my point in saying that is Oklahoma policyholders need to know that their premium dollars stay in Oklahoma. We don't pay claims in other states, but we have plenty to pay for in Oklahoma as it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 23, 24 were tough. 25's not looking much better.
No, it's not. It's not. But we still have, 2.5 months of storm season to go.
We can always hope that maybe it'll lighten up on us.
We can.
And
But we're not the only state. I mean, you look at Arkansas, Missouri, even I think early this morning, Asheville, Tennessee downtown was hit pretty hard. Up to Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa. I mean, it's a Midwestern phenomenon, and it's all created by weather patterns and Texas,
Yeah.
Louisiana.
I know that you're also an optimist like I am, thinking that things are good from a perspective. And even though we've experienced this stuff for the last few years, let's end this thing with something upbeat that we can encourage people
Yeah.
to do. And I really don't even know what the question is, Brent, of how to ask you other than what's going on good with State Farm, what's going on good in your life and your perspective of how we're moving forward through this.
Well, we're just I stay in this because this is my business. Other people just say, yeah, we have storms move through. I was raised in Oklahoma, so I'm used to that. And it is normal. It's normal. It's just the intensity and the frequency has been higher the last few years. I think that's a cycle. I think that over 100 years, we can look back and claims people have shown me in the past how the dry line moves from the west to the east over a 20 or 30-year cycle and then resets itself. So I think right now we're just in that cycle and we're going to be over it. I hope this is the year that we start to see it trend back to normal, or what I would think is normal. I don't know. There are some believe that we're in a climate crisis, whether that's man-made or not man-made. I certainly don't think man contributes to it because I think that's pretty hedonistic to think that. But it is true that we're seeing more intense storms across the world for whatever reason. I mean, God's God. He can do whatever he wants to. We live in a world that he has allowed to live. After the fall, things happen, and we're in that world. That's my worldview. So I trust in him. I know that he's going to be there to walk with us and stand beside us. And but at the end of the day, things are out of our control. But that doesn't cause me pause or make me sad. It actually encourages me, because I think that we are in his hands, and we're his children, and he's going to protect us and watch over us. And I know that's getting very, very personal and broad, but I'm an optimist because I have hope. I have hope in the one true truth, and I encourage other people to look into that. We live in a world of skepticism and hate, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. These hurdles that we experience in life can help us fall forward.
Absolutely.
And help us experience the true us and those around us. Through trials and tribulations, sometimes it breaks that ground that needs to open up in ourselves so that we can connect to others better. Thanks for coming in today.
I absolutely. I mean, to echo that, I mean, in any growth in life is going to come typically from some type of a challenge or failure preceding.
Yeah.
And we that is the way we grow.
Yeah.
And stress can be a good thing.
Yeah.
For a minute.
Yeah.
And then we grow through it, right?
The most uncomfortable I've ever been was about 1.5 years ago, and you experienced that with me some. And I've put stresses on myself intentionally just to see who I was inside myself, gamifying my life. And then those things seemed to be out of my control, and my life seemed to be out of control. And that didn't feel good.
No.
And it wasn't anything that I would wish on anybody, to have to go through that stretching of a moment.
Right.
But what it did was it connected me to myself and those around me after we got back to getting out of that stressful situation, so that I could see people differently, because I went through something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But if they need to go through that to open them, more power to God. Just wait, watch, see. Just because you're in a dark space, maybe, doesn't mean that's where you're going to stay. Realize that God can develop you through that to open you to furthering your enlightenment.
That's right. I think what you experienced is probably what David went through. We see that come out in the 23rd Psalm. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you're with me. Your rod and your staff, they're there.
Yeah.
You comfort me.
Yeah.
Right in the presence of my enemies. So we have a faithful God. And he may allow us to go through some things that expose maybe some parts of us that we need to get corrected.
Yeah, we don't know exists.
Exactly. That's a really good point. You don't know what you don't know. And so
you can think of yourself a lot differently than what your actuality is.
That's true. Here's the prayer that you don't want to pray. Don't ever pray for patience.
I did when my daughter was born, and my wife has received a lot of patience with putting up with me for 34 years.
I warn people, don't pray for patience.
Unless you're ready.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
But the only way to get patience is to have to go through the mess, right?
Yeah, and you can't put yourself through the mess intentionally.
Good point.
Thanks
I appreciate the time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good, Craig.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?